let us talk about, in this video, we're going to talk about ideas and possibilities about the human race, humans. We're going to try to cover, a bunch of, popular ideas or a bunch of ideas that are also floating out there, whether we're natural inhabitants of this planet or we have, you know, arrived here or come from another place, whether we have been influenced or modified, and stuff like that, right? I'm not sure if we're going to go into the religious side as much in terms of God, because I probably want to save that for a different set of videos, so that the ideas that evolve from that or spontaneously come up, you know, can um, you know uh, be expanded on without a restriction in trying to stick with these other ideas, not relating, so to speak, with God. All right, so what kind of possibilities are we talking about? The Earth and the development of organisms on that planet, on the planet Earth. The organisms, they all had a bunch of unique traits, specific traits, characteristics, as well as a whole bunch that are shared. Other entities, where maybe for lack of a better blah blah blah, were more intelligent or advanced, and they interacted, they saw, okay, the organisms of Earth, and they modified those organisms biologically, genetically. They did something physical, they did some kind of alteration, some kind of change, or, basically some kind of modification of the physiology or structure, biological structure of the Earth organisms. And because of that, unique things have happened. There's some things that we could, some things we need, some things are being assumed here because of what we just said. Okay, there's a couple of possibilities, a couple of possible assumptions occur because of what we just said, which is that before certain organisms were modified, maybe they would not, okay, reach the or gain the qualities, characteristics that they have now. Let's say, awareness, and or a complex awareness or intelligence. Okay, or maybe they would have, but it would have took longer. So that's one, some possibilities, or the modification, or the organisms always had a chance of developing a complex awareness, and but the modifications tweak that, or set it on a course so that it could gain particular ones over others. Okay, why would, okay, another entity do this? A couple of set of possibilities for that. Okay, it's standard. It benefits from, okay, creating a dynamic slave or robot or servant. Okay, there's a whole bunch of ideas based on those ideas. Okay, there's another set that it needed to, not that it wanted to, just on a there's also a set of possibilities where it could have done so on a scientific or significantly scientific purpose only, but not in an evil way, or not because it wanted to control or whatnot, but in a scientific way. But there's also one where it could have done it in a scientific way or in enslavement way, but because it needed to, not out of greed or whatever, but it needed to. It was vital to those entities' survival, or, And then there's another set, a very interesting one that I'm analyzing a lot more these days, and that is that The modification occurred for a scientific reason, but also for a need in the sense that what these modified organisms, earth organisms, can do, okay, what they can achieve, the other entities could not achieve. There is something that the biological entity, okay, the biological organism can do that is very valuable. And this leads us to other ideas that we'll talk about later about, where does the human organism, stand in the scheme of things, in existence, in the universe, etc. And I like to think that we're quite state of the art. Okay, we're not pieces of shit like some might want us to believe. What is the value of the human to the entity then? Okay, the modified earth organism that has, reached the point that we've reached right now. I've thought long and hard and reviewed many, many options, many possibilities and reasoning involving it. And one thing I think is quite unique is that we bring emotion to intelligence. So, like the same as our ideas about an AI, okay, achieving AI, okay, there's sort of like an irrational element comes with that, okay. For us, you could help out by defining what that irrational sort of or radical element might be, but generally speaking, we usually describe it in terms of, emotions, and love, and but emotion. We bring emotion to logic, to our logic and reasoning, and that can create a lot of problems. We know that, but at the same time, it can produce a lot of amazing things. So let's talk about some other versions of what kind of possibilities result from this. All right, here, okay, we have organisms, earth organisms, aware, complex aware or earth organisms that can view, okay, existence in particular terms, and in a particular set of perceptions and experiences, and that could be quite valuable to those entities. We look out at existence. We look upon existence. We view those things in terms of our logic and reasoning, but also in terms of emotion, also in terms of belief and faith. And where we might think that there's a great big problem with those who believe in God and those who believe in science and that there's not a God, okay, these other entities might realize that all of that is still talking about the same thing. Whether you want to represent it in a religious set of terms, and those other people might want to represent it in some kind of, mathematical set of terms. Okay, we understand that, and a lot of us understand too, that probably that there's a large percentage of either one that is representing the same thing. Okay, those entities might realize that. What could be some of the possibilities involved with those entities? What might drive them to do this is maybe they can't apply that type of emotion to it, that type of a rationale to the our approach and understanding, our experience. You know what I mean? But the point is, if we're going to talk about the humans being modified and stuff, we should at least identify what are the popular possibilities. Why? So we're talking enslavement and stuff like that. But enslavement is very peculiar because there's a set of additional possibilities that have to come with enslavement to justify why they would need to modify an earth organism in order to create a slave, in order to do blah, blah, blah. Why, if these are highly intelligent or advanced entities, could they not have built a machine to do that? So you're going to then have to tell me that there is something extremely unique that an modified earth organism can do that a machine couldn't do. Okay? So it's very tricky because for those advanced entities, we could describe that what they've done to us is a version of giving us or helping us achieve AI for us, right? If they could do that for us, why couldn't they do that for their machines? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. It's possible. It's possible that they only had the technology to do it for an organism and not a machine. But that seems a little bit. I would think that the possibility is in reverse. I would think should be easier for advanced entities to be able to modify and dynamically or significantly tweak a machine more than a biological organism. Okay, at the very least, they would be equal. With the machine, they can control way more variables than they can control with the biological organism. They could put all that effort into all that time waiting into that biological organism, only for the biological organism the modified organism to skits out, to go haywire and destroy itself and all that. So it doesn't, you know what I mean? It seems to me less likely that there's something exclusive in the organism that it needed to modify it in order for it to be enslaved and do its bidding. And it doesn't seem like, at least in a mining sense. What does seem more probable is there's something that the organism can achieve, the modified organism can achieve, that the machine cannot. There's something in there. And even that seems a little bit weird because if they could once again, if they could give us all this, if they can help us obtain all these qualities, okay, then I would need to believe that a lot or some significant amount, or at least some significant quality that we have, their machine cannot obtain when they do the same modification for their machine. Do you understand what I just said? This is what we need to assume then for justifying why they would do that, and things like well, they're modifying, they're harnessing the pineal gland and stuff like that. Well, I would need to believe that they cannot recreate that biological, system to get that they would need to actually significantly externally involve or interact with us in order to harvest that. It doesn't seem like the correct behavior for a highly advanced entity. It doesn't seem like that. Even if they did need our pineal gland or some kind of, hormones from us or whatnot, it doesn't make sense that we would go in such an extreme way, such an extreme farming way in order to do that. There would be a lot more simpler ways. You wouldn't do this. You wouldn't have such dynamic free will. Okay, even if it's a perception of the free will, you wouldn't have such. There wouldn't be a need for it. It would be there's probably way more clinical or just mechanical farming realities that could be created in order to achieve or obtain what they need to obtain.